your take on Ethereum, I think, is interesting. I mean, it's definitely an extreme one. I
Yep.
think like this idea that the EVM is going to zero, a lot of people would push back on that.
Yep.
What's the thesis here for the, let's say, like in 10 years from now,
Yep.
what will we be using the EVM for, if anything?
I think that comes down to Solidity, right? Solidity is very analogous to JavaScript in this case. JavaScript is a great language, like used by 17 million people, something ridiculous. It's a good language to start off the birth of Web3, the birth of like JavaScript was for Web2, but there was much better iterations upon Solidity and JavaScript that is more enhanced for blockchains. So, for example, Move was built by the Facebook and the DM program, literally the biggest consumer app in the world. Looked at blockchain and was like, Solidity can't scale. If we ever want to bring our billion users to blockchains, we can't be getting hacked for billions, eventually trillions of dollars. Consumer assets need to be safe, as well as if I'm bringing millions of users to my network, it needs to be able to do more than 5 TPS, 10 TPS. Inscriptions kind of showed that no EVM could do above 100 TPS. I think that was the highest number that we got. So looking at if we ever want to bring consumer apps and actually adoption to what we're all here for, it's clear that next gen virtual machines are the key. However, the Ethereum virtual machine still is like the predecessor. Solidity still has all the mind share, and most developers are still there. So the way we approach it, and kind of what most people in the space are approaching, is embedding backwards compatibility in that still supporting Solidity smart contract. If I'm a Solidity developer, if I'm Uniswap, I can still deploy on top of next gen virtual machine. However, either through a transpiler, either through a hybrid VM, which is what Say is doing, either through like a complete restructured EVM, which is what Manat's doing, um, we should be able to scale the EVM in other ways. We approach that through a transpiler, so we accept Solidity script, but we still run the move VM under the hood. So I wouldn't say that EVM, like the EVM itself is different from Solidity. I would say Solidity is still around because most smart contracts are in that. But I think there's better ways to enhance the Ethereum virtual machine in a way that you can still run Solidity on top of next gen VMs.
Do you foresee blue chip smart contracts on Ethereum rewriting their entire code base in other VMs, or leveraging something like Move or Movement to transpile their applications to another VM? Or do you think the EVM will evolve to support other languages? Like, now this has been like in the works for years with Viper and hasn't really played out. But where do you see that heading in terms of the EVM potentially evolving to continue to support these, multi tens of billions of dollar blue chip applications that will, potentially be like in the hundreds of billions in coming years?
Yeah, I think Stani's been like the most vocal about this in terms of the Solana system. Like he wants Aave on top of Neon, which is kind of like the EVM solution for Solana. So still able to use like a parallelized runtime, still using next gen virtual machine, but bringing a compatibility with the whole Aave stack. Aave is interesting because obviously like because it's cross chain and there's a whole lending markets. If you have like one network go down, it kind of creates like a trickle effect. So security is really important in making sure like the standard is the same across chains. So I think there's already been a lot of mind share around can we look at Solana and bring blue chip protocols to that ecosystem. So I think the first kind of adoption will happen at Solana level, and that'll trickle down to like the moving system and other networks. In terms of like the EVM, like it kind of depends on what angle you're looking at. I think like Viper didn't show much improvements. Like the curve attack was a Viper vulnerability, which was still a re-entry bug. So Viper has like minimal improvements, if not like if any. There's still a lot of vulnerabilities. The issue is at the VM level itself. I don't believe that like the Ethereum Foundation or any groups can really tackle it in the near to short term as quick as like the Solanas of the world, the movements of the world, Aptos and Swedes of the world can address issues. So it's kind of like how the question is: are blue chip protocols going to adopt next gen VMs first, or is like the Ethereum Foundation going to be able to create EIPs that can substantially be improved? I've seen a lot of different EIPs around security and performance, and those usually don't allow backwards compatibility, so people need to completely rewrite their Solidity code anyway. And B, it's like years out, and there's no like formidable plans yet. While like next gen VMs have a clear roadmap um, for adoption.
I mean, I could definitely see it going that way. I mean, the counter case here is PHP, right? In Web 2, and like PHP's been around for like 20 over 20 years. I think like 25 years now. we've anybody who's been in the Web 2 space or has been building web applications for a long time, has been saying that PHP would die, many times. It's like Bitcoin is dead. Like
Yeah.
PHP was supposed to be dead years ago, and it still powers like I think something like 60 to 70% of websites on the internet because there's like a few applications that still use it at scale, like WordPress and Facebook and a few others. Do you think that like there's a space for Solidity code still continues to power very large applications in this space, but is mostly seen as like a legacy language, while new developers and like all the new applications leveraging the modular stack will be using things like movement and other VMs, but that Solidity will continue to be this kind of like legacy supported language, using the EVM for like decades to come.
Yeah, I was a PHP dev before I got into crypto, and I hated it.
Same.
But I think is that's like exactly how I see it, right? Like Solidity, the EVM is legacy code. Like it'll always be referred, like even Bitcoin script technically is legacy, and like Ethereum was upgraded to that. But like Bitcoin is still Bitcoin, obviously, and there's still like a bunch of BRC20 stuff and still innovations happening there. So I think there's a market for both in that legacy code and legacy like OG DeFi protocols will still remain EVM dominant, whereas the next gen of innovation is going to happen next gen level. If I'm a new developer coming to the space, it's actually more profitable and more intuitive for me to learn Rust and Rust-based languages because A, the average salary for that is like twice that of Solidity, and B, there's much more use cases. Like Solana, I would say is like the best place to do a payments app, payments across the world at like less than a fraction of a cent, like instantaneous. You can't really do that on Ethereum. Can't really do that anywhere else. Move is like the best to do secure programming. So if you want to build like a financial app that's not going to get hacked, as well as like dynamic NFTs and a bunch of other things that Move enable, that's the best language to pick up. So I think there's a bunch of different use cases that are going to see light in the next 2 or 3 years that really highlight Move, highlight Solana VM. Move specifically is big for gaming. So when that big gaming Web3 run comes, I believe it's going to be in the Web3 ecosystem is going to happen at the Move level. So yeah, I think it's also similar to the AI industry. Microsoft's announced their big pivot to Rust, and like announcing that their code bases are predominantly Rust based. Before that, like AI wasn't like that, like 20 years ago, right? But now we're seeing much more innovation happen in the Rust realm across different industries.